All right, so again, my name is David Haake. So pleased to be with you this evening. We're going to hear about a backpacking trip to the Ansel Adams Wilderness. This was a backpacking outing organized by Sierra Club back in 2019. Um, but it seems timely as this is the summer to get out and enjoy our great Sierra Mountains. Um, and most of the photography is pictures that I took myself, but there's a few that my son took, and I'll point out which ones are his. It is one of the most beautiful places in the Sierra and very photogenic, which is why they call it the Ansel Adams Wilderness, the famous Sierra Club photographer. Okay. So, the Ansel Adams Wilderness is located here on this map, sort of south of Yosemite, north of the Sierra. It's partly in the Inyo National Forest, partly in the Sierra National Forest, and you can see its location relative to Mono Lake at the top and the Mammoth Lakes area just to the east. And that is Mammoth is often the jumping off start for backpacking trips to the Ansel Adams Wilderness. You can stay there the night before and then take a bus to the trailhead. So I'll talk more about that in a minute. Of course, Ansel Adams, for whom the wilderness was named, is the famous photographer and champion of wilderness preservation. He is just an iconic, almost folk hero that made a major commitment to the Sierra Club. He was on the board of directors for 37 years. And of course, his stunning photography is something that is everybody is familiar with. In fact, he inspired my son to get into photography. This is an image that my son Eric took in the classic Ansel Adams black and white, trying to capture every possible detail of the image in as sharp resolution as possible. And of course, this is Banner Peak reflected off of the surface of Thousand Island Lake on a completely windless morning, which gives it that mirror-like quality. This is a map that you can find on the dining hall of Red's Meadow, dining hall in Red's Meadow, which is kind of an upside down way of looking at things, but it's a backpacker's perspective on the trip that we're going to take today. And I don't know if you can see my cursor, but we're going to be starting down here in Agnew Meadow. There are actually two trails to get up to Thousand Island Lake, which is over on the right. You can either take the river trail, which is my preferred trail, or you can take the high trail, both of which end up along this one side of Thousand Island Lake, which is where the best camping sites are. And then in this backpacking trip, we go up, we visit Catherine Lake up here behind Banner Peak, and then we come back, and this is actually along the Pacific Crest Trail as well. We go past Emerald and Ruby and Garnet Lake, and then we go up to John Muir's favorite lake, Lake Ediza, and then up to Iceberg Lake right here below the Minaret Mountains. When the pass is open, you can go over to Cecile and Minaret Lakes. In this trip, we were not able to do so because had been so much snowfall that pass was closed. And so we came back down along this route and then back up to the Minaret Lake this way, and then out through Devil's Postpile here on the left and Red's Meadow, and then catch the bus back to Mammoth. This is the sort of more topologically correct type of map, and it's oriented differently. Agnew Meadow is on the right now. Thousand Isle Lake is up here at the top, towards the left, and then you see Emerald and Ruby and Garnet, Ediza Lake, Iceberg, Cecile, and Minaret Lakes, and coming out down here to the Postpile and Red's Meadow. So once you sign up for a trip, and you usually do so in January, which is when these trips start being posted and filling up, they can fill up quite quickly. Your trip leader wants to know what kind of shape you're in. And in our case, they send a very specific guidelines for how to get in shape and what you should be doing in the months leading up to the trip, both in terms of conditioning and making sure that you have your gear that you need, breaking your boots, all that kind of stuff. And fortunately, our leaders were very explicit on what they wanted us to be doing. So, okay. And then I actually made a spreadsheet to weigh everything that I was planning to bring with me, including the backpack and what I was going to sleep with and clothes. And I'll be talking about some of these details in a minute. But I was trying to get under 20 pounds as my base weight. And at least at this point, I had it down around 16 and a half. So that was pretty good. And so here is Banner Peak again with Thousand Isle Lake in the background. And you can see what my backpack and my sleeping gear, which was a 3-wire bivvy. And I'll explain more about what that is in a moment. So the bivvy is not a tent, but it keeps you quite warm and protects you from the rain. And it's very basic and very light. And so it's something to think about if you're trying to think of options that are as lightweight as possible. And it basically, you're in a cocoon. It's actually a great way to go. And of course, the other choice is to go with one of these lightweight tents. The Nemo Hornet is something that most people like. This one person Hornet is just 27 ounces, so it's hard to get a lot less than that. So this trip was in August, and of course June and July we're building up strength, getting into the conditioning, starting to go hike longer and carry more weight, gradually building up your strength, testing your equipment. One of the things that I learned from the leaders, John and Julie, was about the training technique of Ed Visters, who only American to summit all 14 8,000 meter peaks without the use of oxygen. And they provided his training method, which Linda's on the call this evening. She knows about my planking, or actually we plank together every morning. Planking is just about the best exercise I can think of for your core. Basically you're on your hands and knees, and you just stay in that position for as long as you possibly can. But there are lots of other, Visters exercises that if anybody's interested, I could be happy to send you this guideline to the backpacking training. And then August 8th was our trip date. We're building up strength. It's a good idea to get up to Mammoth a day or two ahead of time to start acclimatizing to the altitude. This is the first day. We're starting at about 8,300 feet on the lower left here. The trail initially goes downhill to the river and then gradually climbs up to almost 10,000 feet. which is where Thousand Island Lake is located. So you're going to be gaining about 2,000 feet of altitude over a 6-7 mile distance. Now, of course, everybody was worried about bears, and one of our backpacking participants sent out this advice in a kind of a joking way. Bear attack tip: if attacked, play dead. It will be good practice for when you die a couple minutes later. So actually, bears are not that dangerous, but you do have to take a bear canister, so that they do not steal your food. Black bears are pretty, non-threatening. Actually, they only want your food. This picture is really important to me because this is the bus that picks you up from Mammoth to take you to the trailhead. And when you go through the doors of this bus is the greatest feeling, because you know your trip has started. All the preparation for months and months is over, and the fun is about to begin. And there I am, happy as a clam, at the trailhead of the Ansel Adams Wilderness. And there you can see Julie, who's just an amazing leader. If you can ever do a trip with Julie or John, and John is standing there with the white shirt on the right. If you can ever get a trip with Julie or John, I strongly recommend it. They're just fabulous leaders, and will make sure you have an amazing time. I love walking trails in the Sierra, the colors, the patterns. It's a photographic paradise. Let's see if I can get this video going. Okay. So the great thing about the river trail is that you're walking along this river, and you have the sound of the river. You've got a source of water, obviously, and it really makes the trail incredibly pleasant. So as the river is flowing downhill, you're going uphill. So we're heading sort of up in the sort of into the distance of this photograph. This is the middle fork of the San Joaquin River. This is another one. So hearing the sound of water is the music of the Sierra. And then 7 miles later and 2,000 feet higher, you are finally in view of Thousand Island Lake. You can see Banner Peak there on the left, and Mount Davis is up there on the right, and the glaciers, and you know you've arrived. And so we're sort of on the, I guess, the north side of the lake. It's called Thousand Island Lake, not because it has anything to do with salad dressing, but because there are lots and lots of rocks and the small islands in the lake. This side is where really the best campsites are, and where most people camp. Amazing light, this is this sort of alpenglow. I can't remember offhand whether this was early in the morning or late in the evening, but really fabulous place to do photography. Here's another image that my son did, which again captures that mirror-like quality of Thousand Island Lake on a windless morning. Here's another one with a little bit more clouds in view. So, you go up there and has anything changed? Ansel Adams, of course, took pictures of Banner Peak. You can actually see Ritter in the background to the left. Ritter's actually higher elevation than Banner, but Banner is the one that overlooks Thousand Island Lake. And the question is, when Ansel Adams took the picture in 1923, did it look any different? Well, the first time I went up there in 2016, it sure looked like there was less snow. But then after a really good snow year in 2019, it seemed to look pretty similar. So we'll see over time what changes, if anything. But there's still snow up there. There's still glaciers up there. So that's really nice. And so here we are at our campsite, and you've got Julie and John kind of organizing things. Julie is standing there directing traffic, and she's got, everybody has carried up a beer can, and the first job you do when you arrive is to take your beer can out and bring it over to the the kitchen area that Julie and John are organizing so that they can start working on the next meal. And there's the kitchen. It's getting set up, and they're getting ready to go. They've got the water filtration hanging from a branch on the far left of this picture. Julie is one of the most careful people when it comes to making sure you've washed your hands before you touch anything in the kitchen. Because she doesn't want to have anybody get sick. And Julie spends months getting ready for these trips by preparing food. She's got a dehydrating system, and she dehydrates all the fresh food and personally prepares it for this trip, which is why when I had my first meal on a Julie Van Tilburg trip, I thought I was eating the best food that ever existed. Of course, probably the fresh air and all the exertion that day helped with my appetite, but the food was incredible. I begged them for some of the recipes, and here's one of my favorites: curry chicken with tofu and rice. Easy to make. I just have to know what ingredients and how to cook it. Here's the Thai curry chicken dinner. And this was the whole meal plan for the week. Salmon Florentine rice dinner. Doesn't get better than that out in the wilderness. Here was a lunch with crackers and cheese and salami. And then you've got the view to enjoy it by. Amazing flowers. You can see the Indian paintbrush in the foreground. This is the tiger lily. This one is the mountain heather. And if you go at the right time of year, there's just lots and lots of these flowers. Tretalia, beautiful yellow flower. This is the white mountain heather. And penstemon. And a fan of the penstemon is a very unusual insect. I think the next slide, or maybe this is still penstemon. Here, I'm going to show you a video of a very unusual insect called a hawk moth, which looks for all the world like a hummingbird. you can see it's busily visiting each of those flowers to get the nectar, and it's just kind of a crazy thing. I've never seen them anywhere except up in the Sierra. Here's more information about the hummingbird hawk moth. Yeah, so fascinating. More penstemon. This is the elephant's head flower, beautiful lupine, more lupine. When you go at time of year when they have the flowers, you're going to get lots of insects, but I think it's a fair trade-off. Amazing light. Corn lily. One of the most common birds in the area is the white-crowned sparrow, and the call of the white-crowned sparrow is just there from morning to evening in the high altitude in the summertime. This bird actually migrates in the winter down to Southern California. So when you hear the white-crowned sparrow in Los Angeles, you know it's time to start thinking about your summer trip the next year. One bird that does not migrate is the Clark's nutcracker. This bird stays in the Sierra all winter long, and it does so by harvesting the seeds from pine cones. It's not a nutcracker, although it's called that. It actually, the shape of the beak is ideal to extract the seeds out of a pine cone. And then it stores those seeds in rocks and other places so that it can survive over the long winter. Of course, it can't remember where all of them are, and a lot of people believe that this bird is responsible for planting the forest because it leaves some of those pine seeds behind, which then sprout and give birth to new trees. And often you look up on a high sort of rocky ledge and you can see there's a pine tree up there. Well, how did it get there? Probably the Clark's nutcracker was hiding seeds up in this location, and that's why the tree is there. Amazing color. I think this is a sunrise. Even the rocks are colorful. This is kind of an iron stained rocks. This is serpentinite, which is the California state rock. It's a green magnesium iron color. So not all of the lakes are blue. This is Catherine Lake, which has kind of almost an aqua green color. And the reason is that there's a glacier that's draining into Catherine Lake, and it is basically grinding the rock and dumping the salt and the rock into the lake and giving it that sort of whitish green color. This is Garnet Lake, which is the next lake over from Thousand Island Lake. And now you can see sort of the backside of Ritter up there in the distance. This is a bridge over the river that flows out of Garnet Lake. And okay, so we have made our way to Ediza Lake, which is down in the distance here, and the campground, or the back where we camped, was in this cluster of trees up here. And now you can see this is Julie and John making their way along these rocks up to Iceberg Lake. If you get far enough, there's a trail. And then eventually you get to Iceberg Lake, and lo and behold, there are in fact icebergs in Iceberg Lake, which didn't stop some people from going for a swim and climbing out onto this iceberg. Yeah, it's really cold, but it's a lot of fun. There's John and Julie. Now, this picture shows the pass that goes over to Lake Cecile. And while I have been over that pass on a previous trip, this year we didn't try it. And the reason is you can see that we would have been post-holing our way all the way across to get up to this pass, which was not a good idea because that year, 2019, the Madera County Sheriff's Office press release, somebody who tried doing that, crossing that ridge line above the lake, lost his footing and fell 200, 300 feet and died. So definitely not a place to experiment. So John and Julie wisely chose not to attempt that pass. So we went back down to the main trail, and along these lakes, Rosalie, Gladys, Vivian, Trinity Lakes, and then back up to Minaret Lake as the safer but longer route. And here's one of the trail signs along the way. And here we are up at Minaret Lake. Beautiful, beautiful area, and you can see the minarets in the background. And then finally, after a week out in the wilderness, we're back down to Devil's Postpile. If you've never been there, it's quite an amazing sight. You have these sort of hexagonal posts of basalt rock. There's our group enjoying our first sort of dinner together at a restaurant after the week-long trek. I'll say a little bit about how to prepare for the trip if you want to do it privately. Obviously, if you sign up for a Sierra Club outing, they're going to take care of all the logistics. But if you want to go on your own or go with a group privately, you can make your trail permit reservation about 6 months in advance from the recreation.gov website. And I guess it's pretty straightforward, but it does fill up very, very quickly. There are only about 15 people can enter at a trailhead per day, and so those trail permits fill up very, very quickly. This is the river trail information, and the trailhead is marked on the map there. It's worth noting that once you've reserved your permit, you still actually have to get a permit. All you have, once you've reserved it 6 months in advance, what you have is a permit reservation, not a permit. And so don't forget to actually get your permit. You can get it you can actually print out the permit 1 week before the trip, or you can stop by one of the visitor centers and have them issue you the permit based on your reservation. This year, Reds Meadow is under construction. The Reds Meadow Road that goes from Mammoth to Reds Meadow and to Agnew Meadow is under construction. It's the only way to get there, but it is open Thursdays through Sundays, and the rest of the week they're doing construction. I strongly recommend the Wilderness Travel course as a way to learn the skills you need to do backpacking safely and comfortably. It's a fabulous course. I'm a graduate. I strongly recommend it. It's run by the Angeles chapter right here in Los Angeles, and just a great way to build community and learn skills of backpacking. I looked to see if there were any spots open this year for that trip, and there are not, but there are openings for a trip that John is leading, and you saw a number of pictures of John. I've been on this trip with him, and it's a fabulous trip to the north coast of the Olympic Peninsula. So there are still three spots open, and they're leaving in like a week. No, they're leaving in 2 days because today is the 10th. So yeah, it seems like there's still spots open, but just go to Sierra Club Outings and you can find a lot of trips that either have openings or have wait lists that you can get your name on. And my last piece of advice is, remember what Buddha said, the trouble is you think you have time.